we take a reference over here, that what things are there in general and how things should be, if we compare things over here. So let's pick this up. So in the public cloud, private cloud and hybrid cloud, what is the difference? So first is, because these were the three basic model. First of all, when there was the inception of the cloud, these were the three basic model. Later, the first community cloud was added. Okay, then this, your multi-cloud concept is something that is new going on right now in the market. Because if you will see, I always compare the two things, AWS and Azure, and both of them, this question will be in front of you a multiple time. Okay, and many times my candidates ask me that why we are seeing the people, they are migrating towards the Azure more and more. What is the reason behind it? So simple thing is, both are good. AWS is still a market leader. AWS's services are more polished because they are in the market. So if you have a very specific thing to do in your mind, so whatever they will be providing, it will be, very much polished, and very few bugs you will be finding over here, right? And if I'm talking about the bugs, trust me, I have seen quite a lot in the, your Azure based. Okay, so yeah, and not that they are not resolving them, but yes, as if we compare them, so they start focusing more on the cloud very recently. And difference is, Azure provide you the kind of services which is very unique, and most of them you will be familiar because you are already using their services. Like, okay, anyway, okay, anyone who is familiar with the infrastructure that in your organization you have deployed the file share servers on-prem kind of a thing. Okay, although this is kind of, people are start moving to the cloud, so different services are there. So, if a simple thing is file share service. So for file share, either you can use a Linux server or you can use a Windows server. For the Linux server, you will be using the NFS, network file share protocol, while you will be using Samba services for the Azure. Now, because we were too much familiar with these kind of a thing, in Azure, when you create a storage account, there is one thing that general purpose storage account can do, or a premium tier as well, that it can act as a file share server as well, right? And then there are a lot of the different options. When we talk about the backups of that file share system and synchronization, let's say, a very simple example I usually give in one of the, sessions is, if you are using it as a file share server, and what you are having, like, one is in your, you're having the office different places, like one is in the New York, another one is based out of London, another one based out of Boston, and another one is based out of your, let's say, Bangalore, India, right? Now, each of these files here need to be synchronized with each other as well. Okay, so for this kind of a thing in Azure, what I can do, I can use Azure File Sync Service, which is going to use Azure for a storage account, which will be having file share servers, and it will be kind of a thing that all of them are connected to this one. Now, what will happen? It will keep syncing the data for all of these things. So you don't need to go ahead and update each other about the same. You just being sync over here. So all the file that you will be updating on these servers, they will keep updating on the your file sync servers. Now, one of the servers, let's say New York server goes down. In that case, these will be keep updating the same thing, whatever is happening all around. Now, once it is done, once as soon as it is back, so it doesn't have to ask anyone else. It will be just again start syncing with this Azure Sync service, file share sync service, and automatically updated whatever change has been made till then. So it doesn't have to look anywhere else that what is going on. So it will be that quite easy for this cloud model in that particular scenario to go ahead and work with this, kind of a theory, right? So this is why we generally say that, okay, cloud gives you a lot of flexibility. So that's why in Azure, so there are going to be some of the unique services similar to this. Different services you will be finding in Azure as well, but Azure provide you the most number of these services around the globe. And when we are talking about the data centers and region, because moving ahead in the governance legal challenges, you will be finding one of the biggest challenge is, the data that it is storing, is it following all the governance policies, legal policies, okay, laws, it is abiding to the law, local laws, or not. Those are the biggest challenge in the cloud. So when we are talking about these kind of challenges, Azure has the most number of regional availability, means at least having one data center in the region. So most of number of these things are there. Plus we are familiar with the Azure, Windows services and all. That's why people are moving towards this one. But still, if you want a polished, better services, you will be finding AWS doing is better, like deploying a virtual network, okay, dividing it into the particular subnet, giving, creating very specifically local type of a subnet you want to create, or a public kind of a subnet you want to create in the network. That is a very refined thing that you will be finding with the AWS. And that's why there is a competition going on between the two. And according to your needs, the most of the organization, depending on the services they want to consume, depending on the resources they require, based on that they will be selecting best from both world. And this thing resulted in the your particular multi-cloud like GCP. I think GCP is better in terms of containers, Kubernetes, right? Of course, the Kubernetes is something like the open source, but Google kind of own them. That's Google Tech, right? So they are better in that particular area. So if you are working with that, that you have the option, right? In Azure as well, we have the DevOps option, CI/CD option, and they keep updating that thing. So I'm not that much familiar in that DevOps part over here itself, but yes, they have the option as well. But GCP is providing refined services for the app developer, app engines. Those are some good things on the GCP as well. And that's why, depending on budget, services, consuming the services, companies they start going towards the multi-cloud. So over the time, multi-cloud also become quite popular, and this is presenting new challenges as well. And this emerging, this is going to introduce. We'll be talking about one more factor over here, moving ahead, that what your cloud architecture is composite of. Okay, so there we'll be discussing that how this thing is leading on to the development of some other services, or the some other kind of the actor in your cloud infrastructure. Okay, so when we are talking about the public cloud, in the public cloud, what was happening, we discussed this yesterday. You required no capital expenditure, go ahead, use the service. OPEX, operational expenditure was there. Then quickly you can provision and deprovision the machine. These are the two factors. In private cloud, hardware must purchase. So as I was saying, I gave the, I think, example of the your others first, who was starting a startup and going and purchasing something from the uh, capital expenditure and purchasing something and then deploying things, while Weber was going ahead and deploying the resources on the cloud, and required doesn't no need of the upfront cost, right? So that is the difference. Plus in this case, when you want a control, more control, security wise, governance wise, you will be having better option in the private cloud as compared to the your public cloud. Then hybrid cloud is there. Hybrid cloud is kind of a flexible. So if in the meantime you require something to deploy on the public cloud, you can deploy it. So when you start testing the things, you find out now I require to purchase the hardware, so you can go purchase hardware. Okay, it's suddenly you require to scale up that load, you can shift toward the cloud, use their services in the meantime. So it is most flexible according to your need. And in this part, organization is determining, as this is using best of both world. You want something in more control, deploy it on the on-prem. If you require something that you want to use the that unlimited power supply, those kind of a thing, you will be looking for the your public cloud, quickly provision things and all that kind of thing. So this thing is what we call is the pay as you go. So whatever services you are using, you are only going to pay for that. Here, organizations are going to be responsible for hardware maintenance and the updates. Okay, this will be the part. And yeah, this is something that will be costing you. So if you have a big organization, you can obviously afford those kind of a thing. We have change documents, we have updation documents. When you have to purchase something new, you will have to put the application to the stakeholders, they will approve it, and that process will keep follow, and then you will be doing something like that. And in the your hybrid cloud, you are actually following a lot of things. So you can maintain compliance, security, legal requirement, plus flexibility is also there. So hybrid cloud provide you the most flexible way. But again, for hybrid kind of a thing as well, you need to start earning money. You have to be at least some a mid-tier, financially. I would say not a very large company, be clear, but yes, a good finance is again going to be required over here as well. Okay, right. So this is something where we just kind of recap the whole thing